Welcome to BourbonBlog.com Live. It's my good friend Eamon Rockey, also known as Rockey. He is one of New York's leading modern experts on beverage and hospitality service management. Also, the founder of, I'm really a big fan of this, Rocky's, which does amazing things to cocktails and also is very tasty by itself. How's it going, Rockey?
It's going great. Thank you very much for having me, Tom. It's awesome to be here.
Well, it's so good to see you again. I know we had a lot of fun with you on our Derby episode a few weeks back, and it's great to be tasting some more cocktails with you. And I've already started sipping Rockies. I understand you have too.
I certainly have. Cheers from this end to yours.
Yes, absolutely. Cheers. You're there in Brooklyn, right?
I make Rockies in Brooklyn. I actually live in Harlem, just up the street. It's a really interesting time in New York. You know, the city that never sleeps is kind of taking a nap. You know,
it's right. That's right. No, it is. And I was actually just there right before the shutdown. And wow, it's but you're doing well.
I'm doing great. Yeah, just making pasta and hanging out, having a cocktail. You know, the lady and I had some shopping to do earlier, so we geared up with gloves and masks and sanitizer, and we ventured out into the world. Yeah, it's been a good day. That's
good to hear. Well, tell us before we begin. I mean, I made some Rockies with both gin, bourbon. You're having yours there with some Baijiu. Yeah. What is Rockies? Just so we can start out knowing what Rockies is.
Yeah, of course. So Rockies is a liqueur. It's designed to act as a modifier for folks at home that are looking for a tasty and delicious drink. You know, I'm having a little Rockies and Baijiu, a pretty new to market spirit for the States, but something that's been around for a very long time in Asia. It's bright, refreshing, great for summer. So I just have it with soda, Rockies, and Baijiu, you know, really simple. But it is a liqueur that is made from fruit, tea, citrus, all sorts of yummy things. It's all natural. I make it myself in Brooklyn. The principal components in the bottle are green apple, pineapple, green tea, black tea, and citrus, mostly lemon, but a bit of orange and lime as well. I stabilize it with a touch of neutral American grain spirit. And again, the idea is that with that flavor combination, it should be damn tasty with bourbon or mezcal or Baijiu or rum or pisco or gin, anything you can sort of shake a stick at. It's great. It's great with wine and other lower alcohol spirits as well. Obviously, soda and tonic, that's easy peasy, but great with champagne if you wanted to make an Aperol Spritz. Wow. Phenomenal there too. That was really the bulk of the amount of time that I spent developing the brand was in my kitchen when I did live in Brooklyn a few years ago, sort of making version after version after version for like 9 months. I was whipping up various drinks with it in various proportions and recipes, and I landed on this one because it seemed to be the one that, in terms of the balance of fruit to tea, a bit of fresh citrus as well, that it could pretty much speak in any conversation, and that was really important to me. In addition, finding the right level of alcohol. Right, it's only 12%. You need to have some booze there, but I didn't want it to be so boozy. I wanted people to be able to have low alcohol cocktails when mixing with Rockies, and enough acidity and enough sweetness that it's sort of in balance. And it's delicious on its own if you like sort of aperitifs by themselves over ice.
Yes.
And then mixed, it's the simplest thing ever.
You're right. It is so incredible by itself. I just poured a little in a Glencairn just to kind of get the notes that I'm getting in the bourbon. Then I also made one with a gin cocktail here and a little twist of lemon. And so as you were searching for a liqueur that would speak many different languages and also have the right proof, I would imagine that would be a real process to find something that would be so complementary to so many beverages.
You're absolutely right. And that was 9 months of just batch after batch after batch, different amounts of this, different amounts of that, trying different ingredients, but what I thought to myself, what are the fruits, what are the teas, what are the citrus that are really versatile, that can complement both dark and light spirits, that can accompany things that bring sweetness to the table, as well as things that are relatively light and clean and crisp, that don't have richness to them.
Right.
What are things that will be great in warm weather? What are things be great what are things that will be great in cool weather as well? So, it really is designed to be approachable and versatile in virtually every way.
Yes, it is. It's with the bourbon I used, which is right behind me. I used some Peerless at about 110 proof. That with shaken with some Angostura. It has that old fashioned note, but there's a lot of tropical notes, a real zest, a real vibrancy that the Rockies gives it. It's a whole other layer to what an old fashioned can be. Exactly,
and it freshens it up. I think traditional old fashions, it's a wheel that doesn't need to be redesigned. And I don't think that it should be changed in any way. If you're making a classic old fashioned, it's a great cocktail just as is. But with Rockies, you get a totally different flavor profile, and it sort of brightens the whole thing in a really, really cool way. So yeah, it's been fun seeing what people do with it. It's fun in tiki cocktails. Tiki cocktails are experiencing a real rebirth right now.
Yes.
And at the same time, mix up a martini. It sounds to me like you did something essentially like a martini on the rocks, right?
I did. Yep. Right here. I have some Old Tom gin with just equal parts with Rockies, a little twist of the lemon there. And again, while you get the tropical, real high energy notes on both, this does something completely different. It really marries so differently with the gin than it did the bourbon.
Yeah.
Very nice.
100%.
If you are
super cool,
for, Rocky, you can ask down below. I want to make sure, just to let you know, questions on Facebook, Twitter, tweet us back, YouTube. And again, it's Eamon Rockey, also known as Rocky. It's his liqueur that you created this about how long ago did this come out?
I released a little over a year ago. Yeah.
A little over a year.
It was about 2 years in the making, which is crazy, to say and think about. Rocky's and the inspiration for it and the design behind the cocktail and the spirit rather came from a classic cocktail called English style clarified milk punch.
Wow.
It's a mouthful, right? And that can be made in virtually any style, right? You can use whiskey or rum or brandy, whatever it is you like. It doesn't matter. But in experimenting with them, and they're sort of getting popular and trendy now, which is kind of cool. It's a really old, 400-year-old technique. But in experimenting with them, I landed on a formula or a recipe that was pretty similar in terms of what I used eventually to make Rockies. And I realized, as I was making this clarified milk punch stuff, that it would essentially potentially satisfy the need for a really high quality ingredient that's sort of a one-stop shop for flavor and for bright, fresh acidity. We got a guest star here.
Oh, who's the guest star?
This guy's name is Kamu. He's extraordinarily curious.
That's
and
great.
Likes to be the center of attention. So
I have two of those around here someplace too. They haven't made an appearance in this episode yet.
I hope that they do.
They just may.
So anyway, yeah, I was whipping up this stuff called milk punch. I thought it was really interesting and tasty and neat. And I saw what I believed would be the potential to adapt the process, the recipe, and the ingredients so that it could be. We have another guest star. It's like we're on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood right now.
Just more and more guest stars.
Yeah. But anyway, so I was whipping up all these different batches of it. I realized that it was going to potentially satisfy the need for a delicious one-stop shop for flavor and modifier and sweetness and acidity at home, and also give bartenders, something really cool and fun to play with also. And it's been a great success. Places like PDT in the city and Angel Chair and the Dead Rabbit, the best of the best bars in New York are using it, and it's been a lot of fun introducing it to home consumers as well, so that we can all stock our bars a little bit better, you know.
Excellent. No, that's so cool. So again you'll see this at some of the best places, like Dead Rabbit, PDT, all those places. And what are they doing with it there? What have you been thrilled to see them doing it with it at the best?
Yeah. So at Dead Rabbit, Sam Kasuga, one of the co-head bartenders of the Dead Rabbit, whipped up a delicious Rockies and matcha cocktail.
Wow.
Yeah. Super duper neat. I'm trying to remember what the base spirit of that one is, but it's really delicious, and in line with their sort of ethos and what they do so well. At PDT, Jeff Bell was one of the earliest adopters. I can't say thank you enough to him for that, but he essentially made a riff on a tea punch, right? So Nissan Amber, I believe, Agricole rum with Velvet Flare, Swedish Punch, Rockies, and just a squeeze of lime, like a really small squeeze of lime, but it really brings the whole thing to life. It's fantastic. But you know, in the cooler months, there's plenty of rye cocktails going around with Rockies that sort of spice it up a bit for the winter. And in the summer, it makes a great frosé. You know, people have been freezing it like crazy, which is super neat. It can. I don't want to say it can do anything, because that's not true. It's not fair. It's always going to be itself. But the versatility was really sort of number one for me in terms of the thought process in developing it.
And just being so unique and spectacular by itself on the rocks. Usually I don't have a bourbon and a gin cocktail that I'm going back and forth between, but I'm comparing and contrasting what it's doing to both. And I tell you, on the end of that, this martini of sorts, it's really just taking that lemon and that freshness of that gin, and it's really just accenting it. I mean, it's really doing something so interesting with the fruit component. I get those little bits of the green tea. How do you go with the process? You're looking at a lot of different fruits. Tea. What's the process like of making this? How does it happen?
Yeah. So it's a blend of all those things, and I think that's what's enabled me to keep it relatively affordable too. You know, I'm not distilling it. I'm not aging it. At least not yet. I'm planning on throwing some into a barrel pretty soon. But it's not requisite, and I'm not fermenting it, right? So because it's really a blending process, I'm able to make it relatively quickly. None of the ingredients in it are extraordinarily rare. They're very high quality, right? But it shouldn't ever break the bank. You know what I mean? Apple in New York, next to the Hudson Valley, shouldn't break the bank. So did you hear that ping right there?
Does that mean your pasta's ready?
No, it doesn't mean my pasta's ready. It means that it's crazy that I said the word apple and that happened. A gentleman named Carl Du Hoffman is the founder and owner of Orchard Hill Cider. Nice. And he has phenomenal apple spirits as well. So shout out to Carl. His cider is insane, and he makes this delicious, essentially American Pommeau. That I think you would really get a kick out of. Yeah, you should definitely check out. Here, I think I have a bottle. Really good. Let me see if I can grab a bottle quickly.
Yeah, that sounds. Oh, I like Pommeau a lot. That's something you don't see every day. But whereabouts in that's in New York? He's making that.
Yeah, just in the Hudson Valley. He lives 7-minute drive from my apartment in the city.
Nice.
And he zips up to the cider mill every day to make this stuff. So it's really, really cool. And for those who don't know what Pommeau is, there's this group of often unappreciated or perhaps undiscovered for a lot of people spirits, mostly coming out of France, but not always. Yeah. But like Ratafia or Pommeau or Pinot de Charente or all of these spirits, they come from primary wine or spirit producing regions. So, in the case of Pommeau, it comes from Calvados, right? It comes from the same region as Calvados comes from. And essentially the way it's made is pretty simple, in sort of concept. You take distilled apple brandy and you add the juice, unfermented juice of apples, and you essentially thereby produce a liqueur, right? So slightly higher alcohol, more oomph from the booze, but with the sweetness and roundness, richness, and acidity of the apple. So you have this extremely refreshing, really rich, delicious spirit, and you don't see them made outside of Calvados all that much, and you really don't see them made that much in Calvados. So Carl, kind of aware of this and also seeing the opportunity, I think, for cocktails, is producing an American Pommeau that is to die for. It is so damn good. I made some French onion soup the other day and used it instead of the Madeira. And I mean, it's insane. It's like apples and onions. You know what I'm saying? It's just insane. It's so good. It's so good. So
that sounds incredible.
Yeah, it is.
I like Pommeau a lot. In fact, coincidentally, our mutual friend, our good friend Anthony Caparelli. He and I were in Calvados. I think it was about 6 years ago together. You
were in Calvados with Anthony?
I was, yeah.
Man,
it was the Calvados Grand Trophies. I competed with the cocktail, but mainly went as a journalist to cover the Grand Trophies to Calvados. I forget what it was called, but it was in Deauville. And I remember he and I had several Pommeaus together, and I was a big fan. And I haven't had too many since. I would love to try your friends. I think that'd be really good.
Yeah. You got to check it out. Yeah. It's worth every penny for sure. And all of his stuff is affordable. It's really, he's doing special stuff. So yeah, I mean, for me, these sort of craft spirits, they're so important right now. And I was chit-chatting with friends over the last week. I have been chit-chatting with friends over the last week. I think we'd be remiss not to acknowledge the quarantine right now, right?
Yes.
And this crazy environment that we all exist in. And I get these text messages or emails or calls from friends and family, and they're like, "Oh, spirits, bars, they're closed, but spirits are doing so well. Everybody's drinking at home, like delivery apps, like, Drizzly and Minibar and whatever. They're doing gangbusters business. You must be killing it. Congratulations." And I'm like, no, the spirits that are killing it right now are the big brands that people drink very simply at home over ice or neat,
right,
or, maybe mixed with a bit of, some sort of soda or whatever. The spirits that are killing it right now are those spirits, and God bless them. I'm very happy that those, gigantic, massive, global brand producers, vodkas and gins and whatever, every category, they're killing it right now. That's good for them. But the craft spirits are dying. The craft spirits are dying. And so, people who are making, very high quality, in my case, American, brands that are in the world of affected, businesses, which we all are, of course. We're the small bar, the small restaurant, we're the neighborhood business, and right. And we're all in really, really big trouble right now. So if I can make a plea to all the BourbonBlog listeners, this isn't self-serving specifically. Just please drink craft brands, right. Because we're in the same position as the restaurants that aren't going to be able to reopen, and every small business that lost all of its revenue and all of the staff and all the resources that it had. So please drink craft brands. Spend $1 or $2 more if you need to, and drink something that was made by a person that you could send an email or call.
Yeah, so important, because craft brands will reply. I mean, they will get back with you. That you can get to know great people like Rockey himself, fine producers. There, whether it's there in New York. I'm friends with Colin there at Kings County in Brooklyn, really close by to you. And actually, that was one of the last places I went out to before the lockdown, was visiting Kings County and the gatehouses. So Brooklyn was one of the last places I actually went out for a drink before this whole thing started. But so many great spirits coming out of Brooklyn, out of New York, and I think it's really important what you're saying about from your perspective. You've worked in many different atmospheres. You've been in Michelin star restaurants, right?
Indeed.
and you've been you've done it all, and this perspective that you're bringing it, I think, is so important. What are you, for your own brand, what are you sensing? And I guess if you talk to other craft makers, what are you gathering that the future will look like, and how can we better help support craft?
Oh man, hell if I know. But what I will say is, I really hope that we are able to continue with the takeout and delivery cocktails.
Yes.
That, because restaurants and bars, the best of my understanding, the best information I have is that restaurants and bars will be permitted to reopen as long as they cut their occupancy in half, as long as they cut their seating in half from every metric that it had prior to coronavirus. So, if you could seat 100 people, you can now seat 50 people. Now, this is all assuming that there will be the demand for those seats too, right? There's nothing that says that even if I'm allowed to seat 50 people in my bar or restaurant, my hypothetical bar or restaurant, that I would even have 50 people to sit in those seats, right? So, right. With that in mind, the only way that restaurants are going to be able to pay the rent, and pay staff and afford to just operate and open their doors on a daily basis is if they're able to at least provide people food and drinks for home, right? Right. So again, for anybody who's got a platform or a loudspeaker at their disposal that might be listening to this, please do everything you can to advocate for, the continued offering of delivery food and drinks, right. And takeout food and drinks, which is, not a thing anywhere except, New Orleans and a couple other places, right? So, right. That has enabled some places in New York, and I can say this only from personal experience here, but I'm sure it's probably likely the same in most American cities. It's enabled them to subsist. And it's a scary time, right? So we all got to kind of help each other out and make thoughtful decisions about how we're all going to get past this and get through this, right?
Yes, no, it really is, and I think that I completely agree. And I'm talking to more and more people in the food and beverage world that just really hope those to-go cocktails are continue to be offered, continue to be allowed to be offered. And anything to loosen laws to allow restaurants, distilleries, bartenders, bars to thrive in this time, and going forward is so important. Are there other things that you wish would be a little bit more relaxed too, that you think could come out of this era?
That's a good question. There's so many balls in the air in terms of the legislation, and I think, it seems to me like these are discussions that are being had. So I can only hope that the representation for small businesses, restaurants, and bars is being heard, right? But in terms of things that I hope are continued, I hope that restaurants as well have restaurants and bars have a more open door to be able to sell retail also. It's generally something that isn't allowed. Usually if you have a bottle of wine coming from a restaurant, it has to be open. It has to have been opened, or right. You have to have a drink taken out of it, or a glass of wine poured out of it at least. And again, we're looking at a time upcoming where restaurants and bars are going to have to find any source of revenue they possibly can, right? Yeah. And so being able to operate as off-premise retailers, being able to offer to go and take out cocktails and wine, et cetera, beverage in general, these are very simple, small, and generally very easy implementations, right? But they can make all the difference in terms of revenue stream. I'm always worried that when somebody in the booze business or when somebody in the hospitality business talks about money, that people think they're just trying to pull one over on their customers or on their guests, right? Right. That is so far from the truth, at this time. It's like survival mode right now, So it's important that people make allowances, and I think give charitable assumption to people who are just trying to make food and drinks available, and from small businesses too. Because if everything's big box stuff, and that's no fun. You know, we want to have variety and diversity in what we offer. And I'm really worried that we're going to come out of this, and the only businesses that will have been able to weather the storm are really big operations that just had the financial resources to be able to wait it out. You know, and big businesses are very important, for consistency, and they probably grew from being a small business at some point. But if it's only big brands, then we're missing a very important flavor to our overall culture, right?
Yes, no, it's so important that we find a way to continue to support the small restaurants, bars, distilleries, and I think that's just something that we've been trying to do the last month or two, well, really about 2 months, on this nightly show, and just find a way to inform people and educate them about new products or products that they haven't heard of, and I hadn't heard of until recently, until we were connected. Like Rocky's, it is something so sincerely, just something so unique. There's nothing quite like this with the flavor profile on the market, and that's partly what you were aiming for, was something that was just really had never been done in a bottle like this, right?
I agree. Yeah, no, it's entirely true. And, it's affordable, right? A bottle of Rockies will put you back $20, depending on the store, maybe a little bit more.
Yeah.
It's not going to break the bank. And, if you drink rum, great. Try it with Rockies. You'll like it even more. If you drink whiskey, same thing. If you drink, wine, make a sangria. It's designed to, put a smile on everybody's face, regardless of the spirit you're mixing it with. And not going to break the bank in any crazy way, right? It should be the sort of, whenever Saint Germain came out, the bartender community sort of affectionately called it the bartender's ketchup, right? It's sort of like it's able to move and groove with virtually any spirit, and while Rockies is not modeled after Saint Germain per se, that sort of idea of being versatile and being able to float into virtually any style of cocktail, that was really, really important. We've already talked about that. I don't have to keep driving that.
No, I think that's so important though, because it is something that it doesn't taste like Saint Germain, but it has the same way of it can go so well and amplify and accent so many different spirits, and it is pretty amazing. It's $20. It's something that tastes like it would cost a whole lot more, quite honestly.
Thank you. Yeah, that was definitely the goal. You should feel, and that's the other thing we talked about a minute ago. We talked about things that I hope we're able to overcome or change or respond to at this time. One of the really most concerning, terrifying, honestly, things for me in my business is that consumer tastings aren't really a thing right now because we're all social distancing. And for a small brand of any kind, right? It doesn't matter if you're making something from cane or agave or grain or whatever, a liqueur like Rockies. If you're a new brand, you have to get out there and pour it into a cup and give that cup to somebody, and they need to taste it, right? And fall in love with it. You can have the most amazing product out there, but if nobody tries it, it doesn't matter, right? So for me, being able to get out there and introduce people to Rockies is so important to the livelihood of the brand and to my livelihood, for my ability to pay my cell phone bill and whatnot, and to make more Rockies, right? It's really, really important in order for me to be able to do those things, that people taste the product and try it and get excited about it, and right now that's not a possibility. So, if that's not something that happens in the very near future, then I think a lot of craft brands that rely on being able to spread the word organically and get out there and literally liquid to lips, it's going to be a really, really scary reality for a lot of small brands. So, yeah.
How do you think? Just for other small brands that might be listening, or as you have talked with other small brands, craft distillers, short of actually tasting this, how are you going to find ways of enticing, new customers to say, "Hey, I feel like I've tasted. I want to try it." What are your thoughts?
Well, that's a really good question. Everything's online now. That's why we're here right now.
That's why we're doing this. That's right.
Physically here right now. Yeah. So I think sharpening the skill sets of your online presence, which is so much easier said than done, because, I think I'm reasonably intelligent person, and I'm pretty good at a few things. But doing something in a web presence is not, that's not my superpower. You know, I don't have that skill set, at least not in a specialized and really proficient way. So you know, I'm kind of, you know, shooting in the dark in some ways. You know, I just today, much to the chagrin of my girlfriend, I installed a light box for taking photos in our living room. So, you know, I'm going to try to take beautiful pictures of, you know, really nicely made, replicable cocktails, you know, that are not aspirational cocktails. And God bless every bartender that's out there, you know, like the rest of us, singing for their supper online and making these beautiful, you know, really thoughtful, very labor intensive, intricate cocktails that no one will ever make except them, you know? And so I'm doing the exact opposite, right? I'm looking to create photos and drink recipes that anybody can make, that, you know, that they can do exactly what I did here, right? And pour a little Baijiu and a little Rocky and add
like
some.
What you instructed me to try the gin. I mean, it's easy, but yet we feel like it's a complex cocktail that didn't take a whole lot of thought.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, you know, that's I think going to be the way that a lot of small brands, if they are able to stay in people's line of sight, you know, it's by moving their you know, in-store presence to the online store presence, right? You know, via Zoom, Instagram, Facebook, whatever, pick your poison, right? But finding ways to move into that online presence. And what I will say, something I'm very, very lucky for, is that because Rockies is so collaborative, because I personally am so collaborative, you know, there's just been this sort of outpouring of availability of resources. And that doesn't mean financial resources, which would be great because everybody's tight on cash right now, but you know, intellectual property, on recipes, on, you know, product, on the actual liquid in the bottle, right? You know, so when I say to 4 or 5 friends that own or operate, represent brands, you know, hey guys, I'm going to do a little Instagram live shoot, you know, that just tells a story of what I'm drinking, what I think people could be drinking, should be drinking at this time. You know, it's just like, tell me when to send the bottles, you know? And so we end up having this incredible collaboration that's very organic, and is really important, really, really, really important and necessary right now to keep craft brands in people's line of sight.
Yes, and I think that's so well said. It is so important that we continue to feature those, and for people that are, you know, hopefully they're near someplace that sells Rockies. If they aren't, are there places that sell this online that they can find through your website or otherwise?
Totally. So Rockies is sold in New York and New Jersey, Florida, California, and Massachusetts. Thanks for the plug on the site.
There's the website. So go ahead, keep going.
Yeah. So there is a find tab on the website. So I do my best to keep every bar and restaurant and spirits retailer up to date on the website. I don't always catch them as quickly as I'd like, but there are plenty of resources on the website. It's not a very good looking website. Getting back to my previous admission that I'm not a particularly savvy web developer, but it's a functional site that'll get you what you need to know, right? And, you know, regardless of the state you live in, the odds are that there's somebody that ships to you. I'm working on opening some other states as well at this time. Massachusetts is a new one. It just actually opened last week, believe it or not. I opened a market during COVID, which is crazy. So big thank you to Alexi from 21st Century Wine, who is being Rockies in Massachusetts. If you're in Massachusetts, listen to this. Reach out to 21st Century and pick yourself up a case of Rockies. You won't be disappointed. But that said, it's a new market. I'm really excited to move into it. You know, there's such great bartenders all over the country now, in every single state. So there's a tremendous amount of opportunity and interest, and obviously home consumers they're whipping up drinks with proficiency and care for ingredients and quality like never before. So it's you know, it's a really exciting time no matter what.
Yes. It is, and you've created an exciting spirit, and I think it's the kind of thing that, as we look back, and I think that there are spirits that you like you mentioned earlier that have kind of become staples, like ketchups in the bar and mixology industry. But as we look back on it, I think it is one that we'll say, wow, this is a classic flavor that's been created in such a way that it's something that will stick around for many, many years to come. And it has a real signature profile, like nothing else I've really had. And I think you'll have a great future with this. It's really, really tasty.
From your mouth to God's ears, brother. But
it's good stuff. And the more that I try the cocktail and then I go back to it, and I like it on the rocks, but I just poured some neat. I am just, I'm getting all those elements. The cocktail actually helped me kind of have anchor points of the elements of the green tea and the pineapple, and it really kind of starts off with that fruit, then it kind of goes down to those teas, and then it comes up real nice and citrus. I mean, it has some real flavor arcs in there that I think are very, very interesting.
I agree. And, the thing is with the blend, none of those ingredients are hard to come by or unfamiliar, so when people taste that first sip, when I pour a little bit over ice and I give a little mix with my wrist, and then they taste it for the first time, immediately the first thing that happens is they're like, whoa, what is this? I've never tried anything like this, and then what's in this? And I say, well, it's green apple. And they're like, oh yeah, I taste that. And I'm like, then pineapple. And they're like, oh yeah, I taste that too. And every single ingredient is just like light bulbs going off. The synapses are snapping away, and that's what's really fun about it, is that when they're together and in the bottle, they form some sort of harmony. They form a chord that they've never heard before. That person has never heard before. But whenever you start picking out the notes, you're like, wait a second, I know each of these things. And, they've just never been together in quite the same way. So that's you're hitting the nail on the head for me. And I'm happy to hear you say that, because the goal was to produce something that everybody should be able to be like, this is delicious, and very quickly, probably because everything in it it's just a delicious, comforting, personally enjoyable ingredient. But together, they they become more than the sum of their parts, I think is a good way of saying it.
They do, yeah. They absolutely do. We've had these flavors, but bringing them together the way you have is something that we haven't really had before. But there's a familiarity to it, but there's something new to it as well. Yeah. So it's
low risk,
very tasty. Very tasty. Are you thinking that? I mean, obviously, you're trying to do a really great job with this one product. Are there other products that we may be seeing from you in the near future?
For sure. I'm a really lucky guy. I work with a gentleman named Alan Katz and his partner Tom.
Yes, I know Alan. Yeah.
Yeah. So I make Rockies at their distillery. They're incredibly kind to allow me to produce Rockies there. So I couldn't ask for better partners. They're just incredible, and it's important to give them a shout out. They've done so much for me and my brand in so many different ways. So thank you to New York Distilling Company. They produce incredible whiskey, in particular Ragtime Rye, and a couple different finishes. Really nice. Yeah, their gins are phenomenal. I think I have a bottle of Dorothy Parker Rosé here, or sorry, Dorothy Parker Rose. Excuse me.
Nice.
Yeah, it's so friggin' good. Classic London dry style Dorothy Parker, but with this particular bottling, they infused it with rose petals, and it is delicious. Oh, wow. It is delicious. I've been making, you know what's funny? I've been making Rockies and Dorothy Parker Rose Cosmos.
Oh man, I bet those are good.
Yeah. They're insane. The thing is, when you say Cosmo, it makes it kind of like, it brings it to the Sex and the City world, but it's a gimlet. It's all it is a friggin' gimlet, with a bit more going on, if you will. And, gin Cosmos are delicious. And, rose gin Cosmos are like the most legit and delicious gimlet variation that any proper bartender of any gender, of any race, of any whatever should try ASAP. It's so good. And try to find ways to elevate, instead of like nonsense cranberry cocktail, like use a really good grenadine. You know what I mean? And it is so good.
Very nice. Yes, they're doing a great job there at New York Distilling Company. Again, the product is made there, and it's made in Brooklyn. That's really cool. Rockies, and in several states, you can find it on the product finder online. So there's a good chance they can probably order it someplace too, right?
Yeah, for sure. And you're looking at the whole team. This is the whole team. It's me.
Yeah. It's really so good. So gin, bourbon, baijiu, you name it. It's pretty much going to complement one of those spirits. In fact, it says on the back, 2 ounces of Rockies plus 2 ounces of any spirit equals the perfect cocktail. I love the simplicity, the complexity to it. So
yeah, no, it's true. It's true. I don't know. Every once in a while, people ask me if I've tried it with such and such because they just whipped one up at home. Like one crazy dude, he sent me a message and it was like, I just did a 50-50 Rockies and green chartreuse cocktail. You know, wow. Wow, that's amazing. What else did you add? And he's like, no, that's it. That was all. Like 50-50 Rockies and green chartreuse, stirred with ice and finished with a twist, I think. And I was like, no way, that's tolerable, you know. And I love chartreuse. Don't misunderstand me.
Yeah. So yeah.
And I tried it, and it is so good. It is so good. So yeah, I mean, it's like it's so much fun. I hope soon to be able to do some sort of like, I don't know, competition or submission or I don't know, recipe contest of some sort, so that honestly, for primarily the reason I want to see what people are doing with it, right? How they're drinking it, and
right.
It's a legitimate personal curiosity, you know, to see what people are doing with this brand that I feel like I know pretty well, but all of a sudden, you know, people are schooling me on it, which is really, really cool.
You're learning something new all the time, and you're finding a way to get people engaged and excited about it. And I think that's so important, given the fact that there's so many other liqueurs people wouldn't have that passion and that versatility to use, but they're getting behind this. And it must have been fun as you were making this. Were you testing it with just a bunch of different spirits to see how it would go? Is that how you went about it?
Absolutely, yeah. Like I say, you know, I was making variations on a similar theme, you know, keeping the alcohol moderate, keep the sugar low for a liqueur. It's very low. It's 1.5 calories per gram. It's about half what standard liqueur is. You know, because if you think about it, and to be very clear, I love these liqueurs, but like you think about drinking a triple sec, a really, really good triple sec, like Combier, right? One of my favorite liqueurs to mix with in so many different cocktails and formats, but I don't know if I'm drinking it on the ice. You know, I don't know if I'm drinking just Combier on rocks, right? So I say to myself, you know, how can I have Rockies be an aperitif by itself and also an ingredient in cocktails? So, you know, it's about half the amount of sugar as a standard liqueur. It has about half the amount, if not less, of alcohol as a standard liqueur. It has way more acidity. Most liqueurs don't have any acidity at all, right? That's not their job for the most part. But you know, Rockies does have a lot of fresh citrus, a lot of bright, fresh lemon, especially. And so, you know, it enables you to drink it on its own, and it makes it very versatile, very nimble with other spirits. And I chose to stabilize it with a neutral American spirit. You know, I used like 95% American corn distillate, 95% alcohol American corn distillate to stabilize it. And it's not that much of it in the batch. And that was a decision that I came to after trying, you know, gin as a base, tequila as a base, rum as a base, white whiskey as a base, right? And realizing that each of those iterations was delicious, so good. But if you use one of those that's very flavor forward, then it limits the versatility. And versatility, as I've said too many times in this call, so forgive me for being redundant, but that was number one, right? So if I made a batch of Rockies, and I did, that has a delicious, like, you know, agricole rum, something really, really, really good and expressive, you know, it's awesome, and it probably makes phenomenal rum cocktails, but it might not always work well with other spirits, right? So for that reason, I chose to go with the neutral spirit so that I could ensure that that anything else would be able to play.
Right. No, it's what you've built here is so nice, and the more I taste it by itself and with other spirits, the more notes I'm getting. And I think I've always said, people ask me, what's your favorite bourbon, what's your favorite cocktail? I always say, something that every time I go to it, I get something new, makes it interesting to me, and that's what I think this does. I think it helps. It helps with that a lot. Well, this is incredible. You've done a great job building a unique brand with a long career in the restaurant industry and service and hospitality. And congratulations to you, Rockey.
Thank you.
And to you as well. Yeah, you're welcome. It's great to have a sip with you and to help introduce new people to Rockey's. And again, the website you go to, Rockey'sMilkPunch.com, and wherever you're watching this on, if for some reason you joined us a little late, you can go back. It'll definitely be up there on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, as we do this every night at 8 p.m. Eastern. BourbonBlog.com/live is the place to be. And this was wonderful. We'll definitely bring you back at some point, Rockey, and keep us posted as things unfold for you, and we'll try to come up with some cocktails here that might be sort of interesting too with the Rockies.
I would love to return. I'm honored to be here. Thank you very much, Tom, for having me on. It's a pleasure. And everybody stay safe. Looking forward to seeing you all again, ideally in person sometime very soon.
Yeah, hopefully we'll see you real soon in person, Rockey, and everybody else stay safe well, and keep supporting small and craft brands like Rockey's. And small restaurants, bars, keep supporting all these great folks because the big ones, which there's many great big ones, but they're going to stick around. It's the small guys that need this support right now.
That's right. All right, guys. Have a great evening.
Cheers, Rockey. So good to see you.
Likewise.
This was fun.